Hi, this is Serkan from OneIdentity. In this video, I'll be going through the process of setting up the integration between Identity Manager and OneLogin to be able to automatically create and manage the lifecycle of users from Identity Manager. To get this integration started, what we do need to set up on the OneLogin side is first an API credential. You can do that by going over to your developers menu, click on API credentials. You can see that I already have one that's created here, just called OIM, which grants it the ability to manage users. A new credential can easily be created just by clicking the new credential item, giving the credential name, and defining which permissions or which authorizations we want to grant to this credential. We already have one that's set up here, so we'll be using the existing one with the one I am. We do need to note the client ID and the client secret, as that will be needed when we go and configure the integration with Starling Connect. To do the integration between Identity Manager and OneLogin, we'll be using Starling Connect, which is an integration service that's offered by OneIdentity. Starling Connect has over 50 different has over 50 connectors to various different SaaS applications, including OneLogin, Box, AWS, Concur, SuccessFactors, Workday, and others. From this list, we can click on our OneLogin connector, press Configure. We can give this a name, and we'll need the client ID and the client secret that we saw earlier. Copy that to our clipboard. And the client secret. And we just need to define which target URL we're going to. So it's just api.us.onelogin in this case. And we can hit the test connection button. That test connection will just validate that we can actually use this client ID and client secret against that target URL. If it was successful, that will now allow us to go and save that connector configuration. Now, I actually already have one that we're currently using in this environment that's already been configured. And you can see this is just really the basic connector configuration that allows us to read the attributes or read the objects and the attributes, and also write back to those as well. So we support right now users, the ability to read and manage users, groups, and roles. So that's on the Starling Connect. The next part that we need to do as part of the integration is setting up that connector, the registration between Identity Manager via Starling Connect to OneLogin. To do that, I'm just going to jump over to my Identity Manager interface, and I'm going to use what's called the synchronization editor. The synchronization editor is our configuration tool for establishing creating those connectors and defining those, including the mappings, like the object and the attribute mappings between Identity Manager and the target systems. We can create a new one by clicking on the Start a New Synchronization Project button. That will launch the wizard, which will then give us an option to select from the various connectors or different target system types that are available. Starling Connect is one of these that you'll see within the list. Click on Next, Next again, and I just need to log in. This test just goes and verifies the join between Identity Manager into our Starling SaaS environment, which will then enable me to select the connectors that I've currently have registered within Starling Connect. So the OneLogin connector that we were looking at earlier. Press Next again. This will do a couple of additional tests against the endpoints, just to make sure that we can read the information through here. And the next button will then go and verify the schema and pull some of the initial configuration down and set up the basic mapping. Again, I already have this set up in our environments, so instead of going through that process, I'll quickly show you how that looks. Just filter that down to Starling Connect and our OneLogin connector. You can see some of the options that have now appeared on the side. So we've got, as part of the connector within Identity Manager, we have the Identity Manager connection, and we also have the target system connection. One of the features that come with the target system connection over here is to be able to browse the target system in what looks like an LDAP browser. So for example, I can click on the user schema type or the user object class, That will then return the list of users that exist within OneLogin. You see it's using that LDAP notation, the distinguished name form, and all the attributes of that user. Same thing with both, with roles and with groups. There's a default mapping that's provided out of the box that will map a user object. So on the right hand side in this mapping is a user object that's in OneLogin and the user that's within Identity Manager. We can define the synchronization, if it's going to be bidirectional or if it's going to be a one-way sync. So we can configure those type of parameters, those type of options within here as well. And we can also set up the workflows. So within our synchronization workflows and our provisioning workflows, we can define in which order we need to go and map those users back into Identity Manager. And finally, we've got our configuration to then go and execute or run our initial synchronization workflow. That will then now read OneLogin, will read the information, the roles, groups, and the users, and will bring that within Identity Manager. What we'll see in the end is what I'm showing on the screen through our manager interface, which is a representation of the OneLogin, the target system. Although it says groups, these are actually roles within OneLogin, and I'm representing those as group objects within Identity Manager because we want to be able to assign a user to more than one group. But also by representing and managing it as a group object or as an entitlement within Identity Manager, I can also assign these roles to other business roles or have them automatically assigned to users based on departments or locations or cost centers, for example. For instance, if I pick on the employee role, there we go. So the employee role, we'll see the users who are currently a member of that role. We'll bring out that list for us. So there's 30 users. We can also do things like right click and say assign to a business role. So what that will do is it will automatically assign whenever we create a new employee, anyone who's a member of that business role, anyone who's a member of the organization, department, structure, or hierarchy will automatically become a member of the employee role within OneLogin. So Identity Manager will automatically create the user account and it will add the user into the correct role, which will then give the user access to the application or provision the user access into any additional applications or systems that are managed through OneLogin. So that was it. That was a very quick overview on setting up the integration between Identity Manager and OneLogin.